So, good evening, everybody. This evening's conversation is what are the three principles? And we're going to look at what the definition is, what they are, and what the essence is, according to me. What the essence is. I'm really pleased to welcome you all here. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, I'm going to describe the three principles from my perspective, what I would say that they are, and other people and other definitions will be different. So feel free to look at the others, but this is where I'm at. First of all, a principle. So a principle is a fact. It's a fact about how something works. So gravity has principles, aerodynamics have principles, and they work regardless to whether you believe in them, to look at the others, or whether you know about them or any of that. So they just work. They describe how something works. So when the principles of aerodynamics were discovered, people were able to make things fly, for instance. So understanding principles is really helpful, but you don't have to understand them to have them work, because they work anyway. So like gravity, we all know that gravity works because if you drop something, it will fall on the floor. And if you trip up, you will fall on the floor. But we might not necessarily be able to explain the principles of gravity unless you're cleverer than me. The three principles, as we talk about it in this understanding, which we also refer to as the inside out understanding, are mind, consciousness, and thought. And the principle of each of those I'm going to describe next. So the principle of thought, for instance, it refers to the power of thought. It doesn't refer to what we know for ourselves, the little individual thoughts that we have all day long. It refers to the fact that we think, the power of thought. So if you like, the energy of thought. And it's important to know the difference, because if we think of thought, and we talk a lot about thought, we always think about what we think in our heads. So I like avocado and I don't like blue cheese. Those are thoughts, and you might describe them as preferences, but they're thoughts that I have about food. The power of thought is more to do with the fact that I can think rather than my individual types of thoughts. So it's the fact that thought is how I experience avocados and blue cheese rather than those individual thoughts. Then we have the power of consciousness. And if I was more prepared, I was going to have a little experiment for you, but maybe I'll save that for next time. But the power of consciousness is our ability to experience thought, experience life through thought. Without consciousness, we wouldn't know what thought was. We wouldn't be aware of it. We would just not have that at all. So consciousness brings thought to life. It's the soup. So in our curriculum, we have an experiment where we put a tea bag, which represents thought, into some hot water, which represents consciousness. And the tea bag changes colour when it's in the hot water. So if we were to put the tea bag into a cup without any hot water at all, nothing would happen to it. But when we put the tea bag into the hot water, it changes colour. So consciousness is the thing that enables us to experience thought. And consciousness is a an awareness that expands and contracts, like the universe expands and contracts, and it does that all day long. No one has more expansion or contraction than anybody else. It just does it for everybody. And when we have a restricted sense of consciousness, we feel restricted. We get more focused, more narrowed down. We see less. And when we have a more expanded level of consciousness, we get wider, we see more, we become more aware. We see the sunset, we hear birds, we smell things, we become more conscious of our surroundings. So you've probably all experienced being really in your own head, we might describe it, where you can't see anything else. All you can see is the gnarly thing that you're concentrating on or worried about or anxious about. And that's a very contracted state of consciousness. When that expands again, we see more, we feel more alive, we experience more of our connection with other people. And then there's the principle of mind. So the principle of mind is to do with the intelligence behind life. It is the essence. I describe it as the essence of life. It's everyone's born with it. Every living thing, being, and creature and plant life and everything has this intelligence of life. So we often describe it like mind is what informs flowers to turn their heads to the sun, and acorns to turn into oak trees, and creatures to be aware of when floods are coming and go to higher ground, and so on. So mind is a guide because it's the intelligence behind life. It's the essence, the thing that keeps us running. And again, we're all connected to that. We're all part of that, regardless to whether you believe in it or not. So that's a description of the three principles. And then they are what I would call a metaphor. If you've heard of Sydney Banks uncovered this understanding in the way that we teach it now. So he didn't invent it and he didn't discover it. He just uncovered something that's always been around and that philosophers have always talked about. And I wanted to touch on back in the day, I can't remember the year, but a long time ago, there was a psychologist called William James, and he was what people refer to as the father of American psychology. He talked about how psychology is both spiritual and psychological, that we have a way of functioning that has both those aspects, and that if we ever lose one or the other, then we've only got half the picture. And interestingly, what ensued from there was a whole raft of psychological learnings and teachings and so on that concentrated on just the psychology side and not the spiritual side. And they actually started to concentrate on the symptoms. So people got interested in, why are some people anxious and some people aren't? And why do some people cope with trauma this way and some people cope with it that way? And people got interested in that, and they started to develop cures and psychological ways of treating people. So you may have heard of Freud, for instance, who developed psychoanalysis and had people lie down and talk about their childhood and things like that. Now, what's really interesting about all the psychologists, Jung, Freud, there's many others, they all had something called an insight. So Freud realized that people were affected by what had gone on to them in their childhood. And then he developed a way of trying to understand that and then trying to treat them. Just as an aside, I know he wasn't a psychologist, but Bill Wilson, who fathered Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps, had an insight into his alcoholism. He had an epiphany, had a spiritual epiphany. He talks about it like that helped him to give up alcohol after years and years of suffering. And then he developed a way of treating alcoholics. And this is a pattern. So anybody that you look up or you think about, they will have had an insight. They'll have realized something about the human condition, and then they develop a way to try and help it. And the reason why I touch on that is, the reason why it's important is that what Sydney Banks did is, he was a normal man. He was a welder from Scotland. He lived on Salt Spring Island, and he had one of those epiphany moments. And he had this epiphany moment where, in that moment, he didn't talk about the three principles or anything like that. He saw what he called the true meaning of God. He saw that all human beings are one. And then he experienced a completely different life. He experienced love and joy and happiness in degrees that he'd never experienced before. He started to see that everybody has all of this within them. And so he realized that we have been looking at psychology back to front. We've been trying to take care of the symptoms of people's problems instead of looking at what's working, what's within them already that is whole and cannot be broken. And so he then went on by accident to inform a whole new paradigm of psychology. So psychologists came to him and said, want to know what this thing is, how come you're healing people? And he would talk to them about what he was seeing, and it was very intuitive. He didn't read about it and learn about it and then tell them. He was speaking from the heart intuitively to anybody who came, and people came from around the world, gurus and, as I said, psychologists and Buddhists and all sorts of different people who were suffering as well. And the psychologists then, when they looked at this and they unpacked it, they realized, and Sid Banks realized as well, that this is pointing to the principles that William James first talked about when he talked about, if we understood the principles of psychology, then the world would be cured. And that what Sid Banks had uncovered were those principles. Now, this is a personal opinion that I'm going to share now. I don't think it matters what the thing is called. The principles, the mind, thought, consciousness, they're just words. They are a metaphor to describe as much as we know about how life works. What Sid Banks was really pointing to was the essence of the principles, and not to get caught up in the principles. Now, it is really helpful to understand as far as we can. We might discover more about that, right? In 20 years' time, we might be talking about something else. Who knows? Sid Banks didn't think so, but who knows? But what we do know 100% for sure is the principles as they're described work within every single human being without fail. And every single human being has a quiet space within them that can lead them to the answers to anything. whether that's business or relationships or mental health or finding your keys, you know, anything. And to me, that's what the principles point to. So when we talk about the principles and we talk about mind, thought, and consciousness, it can get very confusing and very heady. But if you listen to original tapes by Sid Banks and original, you know, read his books, what he's pointing to is we know how to thrive. Every single human being knows how to thrive. And we also have this amazing power of thought. And we use that power of thought to be amazing in life and create things and do fantastic stuff. And we also use it to hurt ourselves. And if we, and often that's because we don't know how it works. So the principles as a metaphor is to help people understand how our psychological experience is working. And the principles as an essence is to help people recognize that they are thriving essences of life and that they can be and do anything. They have the potential. So I love the analogy of the little leaf, the little tree that grows out the side of a mountain, you know, and you think, or I've seen a sunflower growing on the top of a church, and you think, how you know, how is that even doing its thing? And it's all twisting around and it's got its sunflower head still pointing at the sun. You know, life finds a way. A lovely person that I worked with once said that to me: life finds a way. And I absolutely know that that is true. Life finds a way, regardless to our circumstances, regardless to what we've done or what we haven't done, regardless to our socio-economic status, regardless to what body or color of skin or whatever we happen to be born in. Life finds a way, and it's alive within every single human being. I could go on, but I won't. So based on that, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts, any questions, any experiences that you want to share, or anything else.
Can I get invite again? Because I'm 40 minutes has tried to go to this meeting.
Okay, and what did you say? What was the beginning that you said?
Can you send me new invite meeting? Because I have been spending 40 minutes to try to log on.
Okay, but you are logged on now, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Apologies for that. And it is being recorded, Amir, so you will you can watch it back.
Okay.
Thank you for persisting. Hey, Derek.
I'll share something, Jacqueline, as no one's speaking, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Little Wendy were here. It was just, I don't know, when was it? Let me see, a month or so back. I felt unsettled, overwhelmed, busy. I was too busy with things I was doing for myself, things I was doing for others. And I felt that I was doing the 3 Ps must read this, I must watch that, blah, 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 blah. And then what was going on in my own life. And yeah, it was just that busyness. I must do this, I must do that, I must do this. And I had lists. And so, but because of this understanding, I just thought, what's going on here? What's going on here? And there was something, tapping me on the shoulder like it normally does. And then this spoke to me a few times, but I wasn't quite hearing it. And it took a few weeks, and it just said, do nothing, just stop and do nothing. So what I did over the previous few weeks was I cut back on a lot of 3P stuff. I just cut back. This is what spoke to me. Just do nothing. And yeah, it was what I needed, just to do nothing. And I cut right back and just listened to some Sid when I wanted to. I play ukulele. I hadn't played that for a while. I picked that up again. So it was kind of self-care, but also I needed space. And that's the nice thing about this understanding, noticing when it's a good time just to have some space and do nothing. And from there, you can hear answers if you need them, if there's something for you to hear. But it was a nice thing to be over. And even though I felt really busy and overwhelmed, there was part of me was kind of thinking, this is kind of good because there's something here for me to see. And I knew that, it was, in the past before 3Ps, I, and like a lot of other people, would have been scared. Oh God, this is terrible. But I wasn't worried really too much, because I thought, well, this is good. This is good. It's just time to quieten. And it's the most nicest thing, just to do nothing and quieten. Just quieten. Yeah. So it was really useful for me, what you're sort of talking about.
Really beautiful. And I loved what you said about doing the 3Ps. Yeah.
Oh, God, help me. That. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I love what you said there, Wendy, because it's the same sort of thing that I sort of went through at the beginning when I first got these 3 pins, when I first was doing the 3 principles. And then I got to understand that you don't do them, we are them. So yeah, when we settle down, we just show up as the 3 principles. But even knowing that, I still managed to get caught up, and it's not even caught up, it's even that I still was living the way that I was living I used to. And when the way that you said what you said, I've been going through the same thing now, and I really had to break it down. And I had like a big insight into how our old thinking can stay around unchallenged, and my doing the 3Ps just sort of molded into that sort of thinking. And I can break it down to what I've seen. So from when I was little, from when I was growing up, I sort of told myself, to be a success in this country, or to be a success in general, you have to have your own business. To me, success didn't look like working for nobody. No matter how big the company was, no matter how high my position was, success to me looked like having my own business. And that was just something about me. So blah, 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 doing what I was doing. Now I'm doing what I'm doing. I've always got an idea in my head of having my own business, and that sort of is my success. So no matter what I'm doing, aside from that, or what I've been doing, to actually have my own business, to me, that's like, yeah, that's the first clip in the board for success. So not knowing that this thinking's sort of running, even though I know it's running, but then I said, yeah, do you know what? I've got some nice jobs I'm doing there. So having a business, but I always felt like if I've got half a day or a day where I'm not doing nothing, my brain's usually tending on thinking, okay, how can I start? Right, do this business. All right, this is what I need to do. I need to do that, and I need to do. And because I got kind of busy over the past 3 weeks, I haven't had much time for that. So every time I get a little free time, I had this little rub that I'm meant to be doing something. What am I meant to be? Oh, why am I not? And then I really saw that it was because I put having my own business on like a back burner. There was a rub in me saying, no, what you're doing, you're not being successful. You need to. And I sort of saw that as, do I need to own a business to be successful? And I said, no, I don't. And I had that realization a couple of days ago because the mother of my children, we instill in our children, getting a job is not good enough. You're not studying, you're not going to school, you're not going to go to uni to get a job. You're going to go to uni to start a business and have your own business so you can have your own independence and your own this and your own that. So knowing I'm programming them like that, but then seeing to myself that that's not even, that's something just I made up. And I've still got them times, Wendy, but when you said it, it's like you were describing me when I can see the rubs there, but I look into it and I say, okay, I see where that's coming from. Lean into it a little bit. Is it relevant? No, it's not relevant. And like you said, it's showing me something. It's showing me some old residual thinking that I've got, I'm clinging on to, but I have to have a business. A couple of days ago, I just said, you know what? I don't have to have a business. I can be proper successful and not have no business. And I still feel that rub because it's residual and it's like it's running in the background without me knowing, but I know where that rub's coming from because everything else in my life, or most thing else in my life, is sort of all right. So I know where that rub's coming from. But it's just for me to know now that, again, the principles ain't, for me to get rid of that rub, I don't have to study the principles. I just know that I am the principles. And to see that, because a lot of people get caught up with the three principles, right? It must be the thought part, right? It must be the mind part, it must be the consciousness part, and try to get into it. Throw all of that away when you're looking for something like that. It's got form on it already, so you're not going to find it. The three principles thing, just how you articulated, MamaJ, something that is formless in its essence. And that and we manifest that. And when we sort of see that in a simplistic form, we just have to show up and have faith and trust in myself that I will show up from that space. And that little rub there that I was just speaking about has taken so much off my mind. So much off my mind. And it's not to say I won't have my business but when that's right, it'll be right. Because my brain always turns on, I deal with homeless people and addicts. My brain's, I can start something with addicts and right, then that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll bump into some mental health and I'll deal with some people with mental health issues and be like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And my brain's always busy like that, just looking for the little, like water, always looking for the little weakest point so it can get in. That's what I'm looking for that business. But I realize I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. When it comes, and you're the perfect example, MamaJ, because I said, if there is any sort of form to it, it's like how you bumped into Beyond Recovery. You started looking somewhere and someone said, do that. And you're like, oh, all right, let me do that. And then you've done it. And then Beyond Recovery formed because that was what was in front of you. And you saw that as and I think you was looking in another direction, but that's what presented itself to you. So you just run with it. So yeah, and it could be 10, 20 years. It might never happen. But if it does present itself for me, then I will be ready. I'm not going to be out there looking for it. And to me, I feel that is how I see the principles has benefited me so much in my life. And to even have that insight and that realization, I didn't look into thought, I didn't look into consciousness, I didn't look into mind. I just saw something in myself that I had bought into. But mind, consciousness, and thought had helped me buy into it, but they also helped me get the hell out of there. Yeah. And I can always look back and see, and that's just one aspect of my life I'm talking about. When I get a bit more settled, there'll be other aspects that, because you told me 2 years ago, Derek, you know what, you don't really have to have a business, you know. I'm looking at you and thinking, oh, you don't mean the best for me, you know. Yeah, you haven't got my best interest at heart, you know, because what do you mean I don't have to have a business? That's how you get, that's success. But from the other day, and this is all learning, because from a few months ago, I'm trying to live by this thing where I want to be successful, but I don't want to know what that looks like. I don't want to know what that looks like. I just want to be happy. And I think if I'm happy, then my success, then that's my success. And that little insight there, what I've just explained, which I'm just realizing now, is putting me on the path to that, to know that another little thing that I thought was success was made up by me. And that doesn't have to be success. Success is just me being happy in my flow and in my form, no matter where I am on that scale as well. But yeah, exactly what you said, Wendy, just hit me straight, because that's the biggest thing I've seen over the past couple of weeks. And it's good. I was watching a Bill Pettit thing as well, and he says when you're feeling like that, it's just, and like it's an opportunity showing you that you're not seeing something. And if you just got to be brave enough to look into it, then you will find it. And it's not as uncomfortable as you think it is. The most uncomfortable
I was
feeling-
grateful for it, Derek. I was
Yeah.
grateful, calm and grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew it was a good thing.
Even I was with someone the other day and they were telling me a story and they goes, oh, I haven't been too well. I had a crazy dip and I dipped and I dipped, but then I saw this and yeah, then I'm out of it now. And I had to say to them, when they said it, I said, brilliant. That's a beautiful story. Sorry, but you had to go through that. I was laughing and then you had to go through that to see the other end. And they was like, yeah, that's why I said, when you said it, I was like, oh no, but when you said you came out the other end and you saw it, then sometimes we have to go through them little rubs to be brave enough to look into it. And then it might not be so rubby again the next time round. But yeah, I see some people want to talk, so I'm just going to leave it there. I think Megan had her hand up.
Megan and Yael.
And then Yael, yeah.
Yeah, no, just what Wendy said there, I was just seeing how like we can have this innocent misattribution so easily. We can kind of attribute the power of something to something. So Derek was saying about him thinking that his success comes from a business rather than his true knowing, which is all of his feeling and flow is his success and peace. I was thinking the same thing, like we have an insight, we have these amazing experiences where like thought drops away and we just have this clarity and presence and it's beautiful. And we kind of realize it's because of the understanding we've had of how this works. But then sometimes we can kind of go chasing after it. And then we're kind of, and then innocently, as I'm like inspired and reading something, I feel like, I don't always feel it, but sometimes there's like a sudden tilt where you suddenly start to think, okay, this is their knowledge, this is their wisdom, this is the good feeling is because I'm reading Judy Sedgman's book or because I'm on this webinar with you guys or whatever, rather than the good feeling is what we are and who we are when we're not somewhere else, when we haven't got a load of stuff on our mind, that subtractive thing. So yeah, it's so innocent, isn't it? And when we feel that loving, amazing feeling, we kind of want to give credit to someone or something for it, don't we? Like it's what I'm eating or it's who I'm with or, you know, yeah, and it never is. Thank you.
Beautiful. Welcome, Yael.
Hi, Derek. Hi, MamaJ.
Hello, so good to see you.
It's so good to see you here. And thank you for opening this question because it's so interesting that I came across this understanding, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, and it changed my life in so many ways. But I still ask myself that question, and I never thought I'll be in a place where I would be in a position where I can present or create a platform to help people to go through challenges in life. I never thought that would be something that I would do because I was so disturbed myself. And that question always comes up. And it's very interesting because I've been sitting down and trying to write my story of recovery from psychosis and bipolar. And I looked back to what this understanding gave me. And something that I didn't see was that when I first came across this, yeah, I may have lost 50 kilos, but I had the worst time of my life right after. I never knew that what was going on here was thinking. I thought that was me. And I thought that was the truest thing, that is who I am. So only that, waking up to that became, it got me much more aware of every thought that was in my mind. So I really started freaking out. But then I started having insights. And I thought that having an insight was going to change everything. But when I started writing down and listening to myself, looking back and seeing what happened was I had a very big insight, and I saw how that manic episode was created innocently by me. But it took a while
Hmm.
till I could have a feeling, an experience, and be with it without thinking about it, without making it anything about me, with what I call today being courageous in an experience and not being afraid of it, like Sid said. And that's when the healing started happening for me. That's when it started happening. I never realized that that's what really happened, because I was in my head. I was like, oh, it's just thought, it's just this, it's just that, it's principles, it's like change your life. But my life wasn't changing because I couldn't get quiet. I was still here. I knew this was true. I knew where Sid was pointing was true, but I didn't see that. And I love what you said in the beginning, Jacqueline. Inside of us, we all know how to, we have the wisdom to take care of ourselves, to live life. It's inside. And yeah, so I it's been a while since I've been on one of the calls, but I just wanted to say hi.
Very grateful that you have. Thank you. Jill.
I think this is going to sound really muddled. As you know, as some of you know, Meg and I have been trying to get together some sort of care farm to help people with mental health issues. And we've had some big frustrations recently with, building things, just things going not quite as smoothly as we'd hoped. And I was getting really frustrated and miserable about it all. And it just struck me how, and then Meg said something to me just the other day. I can't actually remember what it was, but it's something about just enjoying the journey of setting things up, and not just having this feeling of having to get to the point where we do stuff. And it just struck me how amazingly easy it is to fall out of the feeling, but then how very simple it is with just one thought, to change the way you're feeling about the whole thing. Is it somebody's book or something that says one thought changes everything? And I got myself in a real pickle about just being frustrated and angry about things not happening, and obstacles in our way all the time. We weren't getting to the end product. But as I say, Meg just said something about enjoying the journey, and it just sort of stopped me in my tracks a bit. And I thought, it's she's right, and it will happen when it's time.
Mm.
And just in that moment, just that one thought, I felt completely different. And it just strikes me how simple it is just to get back on track and get those lovely feelings again about the whole thing, about the whole project, and enjoy it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm grateful that you shared that. It strikes me, because I know Meg a little, that one simple thought actually came with a lot of love and a lot of kindness and a lot of intention. And absolutely, it's amazing how that can change everything. But the thing is, Jill, is that it let the light in for you. So Meg's words actually let the light in, and then you experience something new because you allowed that light through. And what I mean by that is, Meg could say that, and you could just get cross with her and say, oh, it's not about that, or whatever. But your thriving, your spirit, your essence wanted that. And in that moment, it was Meg who said something that helped your essence to see, oh yeah, what am I getting in a tangle about? I can breathe again.
Yeah, it was such a relief, actually.
Of course, yeah.
Just go back to quietness and, you know, enjoy the journey, as she said, really. And it just makes, it's just very striking to me how just one simple thought can change the whole way you're feeling.
Yeah.
You know, the whole lot just dropped away again. And you know, I mean, I get frustrated at times, but you know, it's just so much more pleasant and more comfortable to be in that feeling and enjoy it, and enjoy what we're doing. And we will get there. I know we will. When the time's right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. Anyway, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just come back on that as well. That's beautiful. That's, even as you were saying it, Jill, I could tell that you never really hear Meg's word. You felt them. And from you felt them, it triggered something in you, what just made everything fall away. And I love hearing things like that, because even though I know Megan said it how you received it, but that could be said as a throwaway comment by anybody to anybody, and they just feel it more than hear it. As in, like when Sid got his first insight and the person told him, you just think you're insecure. To anybody, that could just be a throw, but he felt that, and it started his insight. So when you tell a story like that, the words, what you said is priceless. When I was going to type in a message, yeah, that's priceless, because I'm learning that as well, that it's not even about the destination. It's just about the journey. And I learned that through groups as well, MamaJ. Same thing what Jill's talking about is in groups, when I'm the one person turning up, I've got no one turn up. They've phoned and said they're not turning up, and then it trickles into one person. I can't get a room, and every week is something different. And I realize it's not about the end result. And that's the same sort of thing. It's exactly what you just said as well, Wendy. We put form on it, and we think we know what it's got to look like. So we think we know the principles, so we know what it's got to look like. And it's, again, disappear. We don't know anything. We just know that mind's got us, and we're doing what we really want to do, and we're where we need to be. And if you can remember that, and it's hard because every moment you're challenged where you think this doesn't, but if you just know in every moment, it is how it's meant to be, and it will turn out beautifully. And that's exactly how I heard that, man. So yeah, just stay, all of that thinking just fell away just like that. Wham. Yeah, just stay with that feeling, man.
Yeah.
Each moment will be a new challenge where it doesn't look like the last one. But as soon as you realize, oh, no, this is just like the last chat, yeah, you laugh at yourself and just keep it moving again.
Yeah.
Just go from moment to moment, man.
Thanks, Zoe. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
I've got Alfie. Do you still want to share something?
Yeah, what's interesting, what I heard when you were speaking, MamaJ, and I can't remember your exact words, but you said something like about, you know, everybody has a part, everyone has that part in them that's, I can't remember what words you used, something like that still part or something. And I saw how suddenly I saw almost like this sudden expansive thing, like, wow, all we are really is that stillness and that kind of silence, and the amazingness of what can kind of come birth out of that stillness and silence, that we have no idea what's there and isn't really even our responsibility. It's like, who knows what words are going to be spoken or what creation's going to be made. And then when Yael was speaking, I saw that, you know, even in that expansive still silent space, even our stories and our thoughts and our dramas are all just a creation that's playing out within that space as well. And it's like, not even, there's no personal responsibility to stop that or change that. It's just to be that still silent space for, you know, those thoughts to play out in the creation of, you know, how we're I don't know, how I might, you know, animate myself as feeling like crazy one day, or successful one day, or someone with a business or without a business. It's almost just to watch that as a creation in the space as well somehow. I'm not sure if that's even coming out, like making sense, but
I love it, and I love it because you've answered something that's in the chat to me. I think you have. So I'm gonna read this out, and then the person can let me know if this is the case. So this is what came to mind to Reese when he was listening to Derek and Yale. I've seen that when thoughts come into my head, I react to them trying to get away from them or ignore them. And I'm wondering if what Derek means by leaning into it, and Yale about it being an experience, it's sort of listening to thoughts and feelings with a more curious approach, listening in to see where it is coming from and to be able to understand yourself better rather than having that internal battle. And you just spoke to that as well, Alfie, that you can still go to the still place. The still place is still there, even when that internal battle is going on. And the more that you can be in the experience without getting your sticky fingers into it or trying to change it in some way, the more that actually it will pass. But what I love about what Reese's message to me says is, and then there's that dimension of getting curious about that. And Wendy pointed to that as well, you know, like, oh, maybe there's something to see here. Maybe this is what it is right now. And there's a lesson at some point, and getting curious in there. You're going to add something, Derek?
Yeah, do you know what? I love. I didn't see Reese's message. I didn't really understand what Alfie said, but I felt, no, serious, I felt what Alfie said, yeah? And I said, oh, that's like what Yale was saying, isn't it? And that's how I saw it, but I didn't know, should I say it? Because then you might look to me like, that's not even what she said. But I felt what she said. And then when you read out Reese's question, that just topped off everything, because it's the same. I'm going to come back to what Yale said, is because you see, even the like success thing, within that success of my business is an idea of, just on one level, of what I look like in that business. I haven't even looked on that part yet. I've just addressed that, okay, maybe having a business is not a way to success, but in my running thought, there's a way that I've got to be in that business, and the way I have to be myself. And I haven't totally detached myself from that, even though I show up right now and that's not connected to me now. But then when I sit down and say, right, what am I doing? I've got that little self-image, and I found that through like little situations I found myself in, where I may be speaking to some of my old friends, or I've got an old friend I've been with, and where something's being said to me and I think it's a bit of a liberty, I put on, okay, after this, do they know who I am? Do they know who you are? Right, just come with it gently, don't be harsh with it, just say, and I'm saying, no, I'm trying to be somebody that I thought I was long time ago, but I still need to cling on to it. And even on the simpler terms, on how I show up with everybody around me, I sort of show up differently, thinking I know this is ego as well, who I think I should be. And when I drop out of that space and just know that I'm not attached to any of that, and as little things drop away bit by bit, I'm comfortable to see that I am that. Even, it's good and bad as well, you know. It's not just bad things you drop what you associate with yourself. It's when I show up and I think I'm a good person, all of those things are made up by me. And I've probably pre-arranged them or pre-thought of them before I've even entered a situation. Again, that's putting something on a situation that hasn't presented itself to me yet. So if I show up just as I am, however I do show up, even I'll tell you a good example I've got, like, I always think of the words. I heard this thing once, that in the English vocabulary, there's over 2,000 spoken words. We in English language only use about 500. So where there's 3, we'll say a sentence, and there'll be 3 different words we could use for one word. We'll always use the same common word. So I always try to think and use other different words. And it makes me sound like I'm trying to be clever or trying to be posh or trying to be, and I don't do that when I'm around certain people, because I think I'm going to be judged and think, oh, he thinks he's being clever, or he thinks he's, and that is something that I'm clinging on to myself, thinking that's a bit of myself that I don't want other people to see, if that makes sense. But if I'm feeling to talk, I should just talk like that, no matter who judge myself. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but the way that I've got so many different personal attachments to who I think I should be and who I think I am. When I slowly drop them bit by bit and slowly see them, yeah, it's a great feeling. It is great, but it is hard. I find that extremely hard.
I wanted to say, I don't know how to say this and still be sensitive. When you first told the story about, you know, do I have to be a business? Do I have to start a business or anything? It reminded me of the original story. I don't have, yeah, right. It's the same thing. We don't have, like, it's just a made up version. It's a slightly different version, but it's a made up thing. We don't have to be anything or do anything, but we make up what we, it's like it comes from that limitation, doesn't it? It's actually still within that limitation. The other thing looked like, you know, everybody understands that. Why would, yeah, okay, that's brilliant. You had that insight, but that's the same. Running a business is the same limitation. Sorry, I'm getting really excited.
You know why, MamaJ? Because I saw that as freedom, liberation. But when you look at it now, no, it's limiting, because the universe could offer me the best job in the world that I would absolutely love. The money might be shit, the traveling's great, and I would have the most wonderful experience. Yeah. But because no, it's not my own business. So
exactly.
And when you just said that, Mom, that's why I laughed. That's why what Wendy said about doing the principles. And I sort of learned a little while ago that you don't do the principles. But then you've just brought me back around full circle to my first insight. Oh my God, I don't have to sell drugs. Yeah. They said, oh my God, I don't have to have a business. Yeah. But it's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
Yes.
And it felt just as liberating as the first one.
Of course.
Just as fresh, just as wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've only just discovered this. But look how long I've been around it, and that hasn't even figured in my head. That's something that I would, if you would have said that to me 2 years ago, no, that's not full. Of course, everyone has to have a business. Let's take a survey, and 99% of the population would say, yep, to have a business would be the way to go. What do you mean? It's common sense. You could not have taken me away from that thinking, MamaJ.
Yeah.
But then when I realized it's all the same thing, it's just a little part of myself what I've detached from who I thought I had to be. And it goes back to what Megan said, what I thought the journey end had to look like.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm talking about, basically. Having a business, yeah, there's my business. I'm on a beach somewhere else, chilling out, but the end game is retirement business done, yeah? It's not about that. It's not about that. It's just about the journey, yeah? And that's why I could even have a business, it flop, don't go nowhere, carry on. It's just about the journey.
Yeah.
It's not about the success doesn't come. That's what I'm trying to really get into. It's not about the success of, okay, I've started something, it's not worked out. Oh, you know, I've tried my hardest, it's not working out, I have to let it go. Oh, that's not, no. My success isn't tied into that. My success is more tied into I gave it a go.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I went with the flow.
Yeah.
And once I've had that success, there's no failure after that. There's no failure after that. But yeah, I'm saying this, but I'm not in this. I'm sort of seeing it, yeah. I'm confessing, I'm sort of seeing it as I'm saying it, but yeah, that's yeah, because it's not easy. We live moment to moment. So tomorrow when someone dangles something shiny and thingy in front of my eyes, it's like, oh, that's what it is. And then it's like a bang, okay, is that really what success looks like? And I suppose you have to constantly check yourself.
It's occurring to me that we're always innocently labeling what we think we're doing, or what we think success looks like, or where we think we might be going. We just categorize it. Now, that's part of us being thinking beings. That's just what we do. But waking up to that again and again actually helps us to see beyond those limitations. So it's the same as in May this year, when I went, I don't work in prisons, and I haven't worked in prisons for 2 years, and I was holding on to that. And then I was like, I don't actually work in prisons. Like, okay, what do I do then? And then all sorts of other opportunities opened up to me. And then now prisons are coming back in some ways. And I could go, oh, maybe I do work in prisons then. But actually, because I saw that, I'm actually now going, I actually don't know. I just do what turns up. And I'm calling that working in prisons today. And I'm calling that doing mentoring tomorrow, and I'm calling that writing another day. But I'm just showing up to life, really, and then labeling it. And I don't need to do the labeling part, or I don't need to buy into that labeling part, which would then restrict me to one lane, because I don't really know what the ending's going to be like. So I'm just going to keep on the journey and trying out the different things and seeing where it goes.
And I love that little correction, MamaJ. You said the labeling part, but we do label everything. You can't say we do, but it's not buying into it once we've labeled it and knowing, right, that's me. Even though I've been doing it 25 years, that's still not me. I could wake up tomorrow and do something. I'm not buying into that. And yeah, if everyone else wants to buy into it, that's fine. But I'm not buying, I'm the one that matters, because when I buy into it, then, and I'm so used to buy into this thing, like when I was doing what I was doing, and people used to say, yeah, we used to do our thing from young, so you guys are doing, and we all bought into it, like, yeah, that's us, that's us. Then 30 years later, it's like, yeah, we're the guy, hold on. How we really do? We just bought into everything what everyone was saying, and then forgot the program. Yeah, because we're too busy playing the part that we bought into. But yeah, you don't have to. It's just about where you end up. Where you end up is where you end up. It's about how, just the power in that there could get you at so many different little pickles, or little get you out of your head. Just to know that the end, because we're all trying to get somewhere, aren't we? Everybody, no matter what we're doing or what part of life we're in, the objective is to get there.
Yeah, I've seen that the magic comes when I don't know, and so something occurs to me and I put it out there, and then all of a sudden, recently I put it out, just like within the last week, I put it out there to someone. I could do some supervision. You're doing this thing. I could do some supervision, and your work could pay for it for you. And the very same day, somebody else messaged me and said, I'm about to start this thing and I need a supervisor. Now, I've never used those words before. I've never called myself a supervisor, and I did in the morning. And the very same day that happened, and the very same evening, somebody else wrote and said, we need a supervisor on this mentoring program. Would this be interesting to you? And I thought, wow, now I could get all into that and call myself, oh, now I'm doing supervision, and run down that road and get all embroiled in that. But I think the magic comes from seeing, in that moment, I was on the flow of something, and something was bubbling up already and has occurred and is occurring still. And that'll last as long as it lasts. and then maybe I'll be calling myself a, painter or something else. And then maybe there'll be some painting journeys to go on. and none of it is right or wrong. And the success part comes from, I love what you said about the success part comes from, or I think Jill, somebody on here said, the success comes from the fact that you're just on the journey, that you've tried those things, that you're doing that thing, and you're seeing how that works out, and you're playing with life and playing with the experiences of life. I just want to check, is there any people from the stream asking any questions? That's all. Okay.
It's almost seeming to me more and more like there's that stillness and that silence, and in that space arises supervisor jobs or things. And then we have this other show going on that has the story about, will I be a supervisor, or shall I sit and be conscious about that, or what's the word Derek always uses to examine his thing? I can't remember that phrase you used, Derek, about sitting with being curious. Like, even the bit that thinks it's being curious is still just a sort of animated thing in the middle of that still, silent, bigger space where everything is happening. And yeah, and then we have these funny little shows going on, be it the show that thinks it's having an insight or thinks it's being a supervisor, or yeah, it's more and more, it's like, wow, is there really even a me doing any of it, or being curious or anything, or just, you know, that's all just different forms of busyness playing out in this bigger space where it's all arising and going on and happening anyway.
Yeah. Celia, how are you this evening?
Hi. I don't know. I just listen, but I felt the same. You talked about you have a feeling of being something for a while, and then it changed, and you don't feel the same anymore. And for me, just now, I go in and out of the nice feeling, and I feel unhappy at my work, and when I step back from it for a while, I start to do other things, maybe event or a recording or something, and then I coach someone, and I think that now I'm on. Now it's moving, and I'm doing something that I like, and it feels lovely. I had that kind of day yesterday. In the morning, I went to a lake, and I was trying to take a winter bath, and it was amazing. I was so happy, and I felt so released, and it felt like a inner flow and calm and everything. And then I went to work later on in the afternoon, and my moods got like that, and I felt, oh my God, I lost everything. The nice feeling that I was in the morning, but I'm living the three principle. I'm not, and it goes up and down. It's just that I have to know that.
Nice. Beautiful. I'm very brave. Winter bath sounds very cold.
Yeah, my first time. I've never done it, so it was
Right.
very big for me to try that. Go against that thought that I can't be taking a winter bath, but I did.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So, and I felt like living, and
Yeah.
but then it just
Like that, right? Consciousness expands and contracts.
yeah.
And we experience our world based on where consciousness has us in its grip. You know, we experience because it's contracted in that moment, and in the feeling of aliveness with the cold winter bath, you know, consciousness really expanded and reminded you of the oneness and the wonderfulness of life and all of that. And then, you know, during the day it just does that again, and it's just doing that all day long. I feel like
but I also feel that I'm in a wrong place, because every time I go to that job, my mood gets down. so it's I get a lot of thoughts moving on. I can't be here. I can't do this. It's not right. Oh, I don't feel happy.
That you're stuck.
Yeah. Every time I went there, I'm stuck.
that it's that is such a juicy way to drop something right at the end of the conversation. But I'll just leave you with this, Celia, that would you consider that your thoughts about your job are making you have the experience that you're having? I'm not saying that you shouldn't leave your job, and I'm not saying that you should like it, but your experience that you're having are coming from all of that. I shouldn't be here. I don't like it. Da, 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 da. So have a consider of that.
I love the bath.
Oh, right then. Any final thoughts, feelings, reflections, compliments?
For me, I'll just say, the way I feel now after a call like this, and I wasn't trying to gain anything, I wasn't getting anything, I just turned up for a conversation, and for some reason I feel it feels like a success. And that's what success should feel like for me, with nothing. I've got nothing extra except the wisdom in my heart and the love from you guys. And yeah, that sounds like a good formula for success to me. And yeah, nothing else needed, no other ingredients required. So I'll just say that, yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Absolutely amazing. Gorgeous call. Lovely to see you all and hear you all, and love you all. I missed you last month. See you.
When will there be another one, Jacqueline? Is it next Monday?
November. They're once a month, and the next one is November something. It's the third Monday in November. Do you know, Dazzle? No. You know, Derek.
15th, November the 15th.
15th.
Yeah,
there we
November
go.
The 15th.
There we go. Thank you. See you in November.
I'll see you later, guys. Love you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.